everyone. My name is Chubi.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No Filters, No Fears podcast.
Is that with the level 4 elephant?
Today we're going to be talking about peace. And it's not just peace of like peace on earth amongst all men, it's inner peace.
Yes, all the pieces.
Peace in all its incarnations.
Right. Yeah, we have a lot to share. But freedom from disturbance, tranquility, or a state or period in which there is no war or a war has ended.
A period of where war has not happened or war has ended?
Yes, yeah. Correct. So we have a peace for a moment.
You know, in those statty stats that I'm going to read later, there is a particular stat about that that's kind of interesting. About the amount of time within our existence that we've actually experienced peace on earth. How does one measure that, and who decides what is peace if so many of us ignore what is happening in other places of the world?
Exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying, Jelly Bean? Because everybody thought that things were just chilling in Dubai and bombs were being dropped left and right. Right? And people thought, okay, they got it figured out in Afghanistan. Really? Right? And with Cuba, people don't bat an eye. And it's not just Cuba, it's most Latin American countries as well. Colombia, Venezuela, people had no choice but to look at it because it was everywhere. But at the same time, nobody understood the gravity of it unless you're there. So you can decide living in the US that, oh, everything's great in X país, in whatever country. But unless you're there living it, you don't know what it is.
When you were maybe a teenager, no, maybe in college, did you hear about Peace Corps?
Oh yeah, the Peace Corps, yeah.
Yeah. No,
I went through a phase that I thought when I got older I was gonna join the Peace Corps. It's very intense.
Right. It's funny because
with the best of intentions I wanted to, but I also was like, I don't know. It takes a strong soul.
No, I wanted to do that too, but yeah, here we are doing it on our own way. Because I cannot. Yeah, that was intense. No, I don't know. You see, that's the thing. Growing up, hearing these types of like, what do you call it? Corporations or things like that, or organizations and programs like that provide like things like that, and then you wonder how it came about, just like in the 70s, and all those hippies trying to just peace and all that, and peace and love. But in reality, it's like, how much peace can we actually have? And mind you, this is it's globally. We're talking about the world first. Like,
yeah, it's an actual government agency.
Yes, it is.
Which is impressive. But then it makes you wonder.
Right.
Now, a lot of good has actually been done through the Peace Corps, though, like because they take volunteers and they go all around the country into places that really need the help to learn how to grow their own food, to learn, for example, English, to learn math, like to start building schools. They build schools, they build churches. They help people learn trades. What?
All the physical labor.
All the physical labor. But you're also, you're having to live in the same conditions, which makes you entirely sympathetic to it. But it also makes you realize how privileged we are in other parts of the world to think that, when we talk about first world problems, how real those first world, like how inconsequential those first world problems really seem when you have no food, when you have no water. When if you step outside of your house and you're not wearing a certain garment, you could get shot down or taken to prison.
Exactly.
Right? Hi, Delange.
Hi, Delange. Ooh.
So living in that and automatically not being of that culture, you had a big old red target on your face.
Exactly.
So it does definitely take a special being. My hat's off to everyone who has ever participated or is a volunteer for the Peace Corps.
There's different ways of finding and fighting war and finding peace. Do you consider yourself to be a pacifist? Or if you had to fight, you will.
No, it sounds like Donkey Kong. Here's the thing. I don't know if I sent this to you, but I have it, and I wanted to discuss it. So I might send it to you to post up later. There is something called peacemakers and peace breakers.
Yeah.
Right. And it was something that came up apparently as something that was put up in a classroom, right, to help promote kids being more peaceful. But you can apply it to any scenario in life, war, blah, 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 and it would still be BS. Because I don't think that a peacemaker is just composed of someone who is absolutely pacifist.
Right.
Fight does not have to be physical. It does not have to be pulling out a gun or taking out a knife or anything. A fight can be, y'all, words cut deep. An entire nation was built on words. You know what I'm saying? Most are.
Yeah.
Indigenous tribes, they do it talking and shaking hands. That's it. So words can go a long way. So I feel like when we're expected or we're taught that being a peacemaker is just, you know, be nice, sit quiet. You can be peaceful and promote that and still make your damn point. You know what I'm saying? Martin Luther King was not one to be throwing fists, but he talked with like command. He wasn't sweet talking anybody.
Well, as I told you in the previous episodes, me 10 years ago was not the person I am today. I was like physical all the way. I beat somebody. Like my anger was like, but like I told you, I did take a peace vow, and I'm like, I am not hurting another human ever again, because it never felt right to me to physically hurt someone. And I don't know, it just felt weird. Like I don't know, understand the physical violence,
I agree. However, if someone's coming after my child, they better pray to Jesus, or somebody, whoever they believe in, because it's over.
No, I agree on that. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Time and place.
Right, exactly, yes.
And it's not like I decide that this person looked at my child wrong, so now I'm going to go attack them. No, like something actually has occurred and you react.
Right. Physically, yes.
That's why I think it was so much BS when, every time that, protests and things are happening around incidents regarding Black lives, because for many years, it was the peace. Now you wonder why they're mad and knocking shit over? Get out of here.
You can't really blame them. Anybody in the comments, do you guys consider yourself pacifist, or like y'all ready to throw down, throw some hands? I mean, like you said, I agree with you. Time and place.
There is a meme that describes me to a T. I don't know what the specific word is, but it says, I meditate, I drink green tea, and I'll still punch you in the throat if I have to.
Oh, yeah, same. No. Sometimes it's just so hard to when you're reactive all the time, like you're just reactive,
Right.
And then sometimes you're like, okay, Jesus said not today. So you're like, you breathe.
Not today.
And yeah, so sometimes it's those moments where you're like, choose your battles type. Is today worth it? Is today the time of to open your mouth? And sometimes it is. Sometimes you just have to, and that's it. Like today's the day, and I'm gonna say something.
It's also really interesting because it says so much. Like you said, it tolerating and builds up and being reactive. But it also shows if you're like that and I'm like that, politicians, right? Militaries.
Yeah.
They are people too. And they are trained in everything except how to deal with those demons. So sometimes I feel it's a little unsettling. I'm like, how do we know that we're not making decisions that from a reactive place? You know what I'm saying? Or how are these decisions being made? Because then you see wars that go on for 20 years that result in exactly the way that they were supposed to be trying to avoid.
Right, exactly. Like we mentioned before, and we mentioned this plenty of times also, that they start with the sweetness of peace and love and unity, like Hitler did, and Fidel Castro and all of those about bringing
Castro was everybody's savior, yeah.
and bringing everybody together and promises and things like that. To the end, it was just war. It was just destruction. It was just everything. And how are we left with that when we believe, and then you start believing less, and then you become cynical at this at some point. I feel cynical at some point, like everybody's just on their own, like, you know what I mean. I don't know, it's just
And it's also created that culture of people thinking that their vote doesn't count. So we saw an insane decrease in voting, of people thinking that it doesn't matter what they know, read or find out, because it won't make a
exactly
difference,
right.
right? So it's very disheartening. And to a point, that's why I say that they count on that.
Yeah.
They count on us becoming
Complete. Yeah.
compliant.
And I find, and that's the thing, then it becomes the people like us who we speak out on behalf of these things that we find a problem, and then we become the problem. Now there's something wrong with us because we spoke
Because
about
we're the radicals, and the radicals must be crazy, and they're trying to start something.
right. And don't
They're
get me wrong,
communists, they're this, they're that.
listen.
But I mean, it takes those things to know those things.
Exactly.
So why are you calling
I
me names
I am as
of words I
liberal,
didn't use?
right? Because they know I am as liberals they come. Pero if I do not see a problem with something, why don't change it? You know what I mean?
I mean, I
Pero
don't consider myself necessarily a liberal. Like I don't consider definitely not a conservative. you know, I always say, like, my mom gets mad at me because my voter's registration says independent. Because none of them make sense. You know what I mean? It's not. But that aside, it's like, regardless, you have to be educated on all sides of the
right, exactly,
situation.
yeah. Mind you, like I mentioned to you before, I didn't choose to this activism life. Like I didn't choose to be like. I wish I was in a bubble sometimes, because there's just a lot. Pero it happens, it just happens that this role was placed upon us, and here we are, you and I, doing our best to little by little bring peace and education to people.
Yeah. I think we talked about this the other day, where it's like, I've been posting less and less. I am the posting queen on my social media about my plays, about my friends' plays, about the podcast, about my quotey quotes. It's become harder and harder to post because I always feel like if I post something personal or about work or about whatever, it's distracting or it's unsympathetic to what I stand for, which only means that I am placing judgment on myself and allowing the outside voices to criticize me. But at the same time, I'm like, if I post this, does it like water down whatever message I've given to people before, and that now they won't listen to it with the same thing, with the
Right.
same ear? Because I go, but she just posted about, you know, the new play that's opening. I don't think that distracts from the fact that I also believe that people should be free and that basic human rights should be for everyone.
I mean, you are the one that has said multiple times that two things can simultaneously coexist in the same. I mean, I did the same. I have done the same thing too. Listen,
Isn't
y'all
it
know how
frustrating?
Halloween is coming up, so you know I'm gonna be posting. October month is not gonna be nothing. The world could be burning, and I'm
Except for my
sorry,
birthday.
except right. The world could be falling apart, and I'm sorry, but I'm taking that's my mental health day. That's my inner peace of my 31 days of peace, and I'm gonna be posting about that. I know somebody just got murdered again, and that's the fucking unfortunate shit. But guess what? Like you just said, there's sometimes it's harder to post, but I'm gonna post whatever the fuck I want. And if people have something to say, then I'm sorry.
I feel like the people that know you, like,
Oh,
should know that you're not. I'll say that one isn't just posting things about the whales and the rhinos and the things because it's cute and it's in trend. I've been setting goats on Dominican farms free since I was like 8. Okay. So that's not new. Um, so the people that know that when you post something about your personal life or about, it's also keeping that balance
yeah,
because it does like it doesn't mean that you lose sight of what you stand for, what you're advocating for, but your brain needs a minute too. And joy is allowed to live in the same space as empathy.
exactly.
If not, you can't appreciate it and continue to seek joyful or peaceful equity, right?
Right.
For the causes that you stand for.
Right, like us.
I
Like we do this every single Monday. But literally that tonight, all the way into the next Monday, we're working on these topics and information, and
and
it's
amidst
raining.
all the things that are happening at the same time in the world, that we're like, oh, damn it,
And then your
you know.
personal life gets in, it's also in there. And then work life or whatever other life you have, all of it. So yeah, I'm taking my whole last month to myself. Tell me something about it.
Hell
Because
yeah.
I know my limit, and I know when I'm gonna take peace and time for myself. Like my
And I think that's
mental.
the most honest. Somebody posted today something like, I want it to be okay or become normalized to call into work and say, hey, I'm working from home or I'm not coming in today because I'm not mentally prepared to engage with other people.
Right.
Right. And of course, the comments are all jokes about, oh, then I'd be calling every day. Then I'd be, of course, si vas a abusar, if you're going to abuse of something that is very real to some people,
Right.
that could be very useful, right? And that one day of having rest, that one day of honoring someone's need to not engage could make all the difference in their performance at work the following day, in that
Exactly.
presentation, in their moving forward and getting promoted because they had that moment to, you
Right.
know. But we, and I say we because it's the collective, have a tendency to abuse certain privileges when they're given to us.
Exactly. Just like the other day, I posted on my social media, which you saw. I'm already against the next war. I don't know if you saw. Were you able to see it?
No.
Well, so that's what I
Well,
posted. I posted I am already. Let me make sure that I quote this right. It says. It says. I'm already against the next war. I am, because there's gonna be a war. Let me tell you how somebody went into my DMs and telling me, why are we fighting for something it's unachievable? Because I want to. I want peace right now, today, and I'm fighting for it every day, knowing that I'm doing the best damn that I can.
I'm gonna find you that stat about peace because we've also talked about that before on the show, right? About the duality of good and evil existing in the world and wanting utopia. Peace doesn't have to look like everybody singing kumbaya and hugging.
Right.
That does not necessarily, at least I don't, maybe that's a better question. And guys, y'all, please feel free to comment what you think about this in the comments. What does peace look like for you, Juby?
Man, I dreamt of that for so long. Literally no war. Like no one fighting. I know it sounds utopian, but seriously, no fighting, no wars, no hunger. Everybody's like, I don't know, everybody having everything,
Right.
just living life. I don't
In
know.
my brain, I'm a total idealist. I would love that. That
Yeah.
sounds delicious. Every time some crazy shit happens in the world again, I'm like, that's it. I'm getting my people together and we are like buying a plot of land and starting our own city. It's over.
Yeah.
And everybody's gonna love each other and respect pronouns and all the things. Like, I'm like, that is my village. Come live with me. But the realist in me, who still
Yeah.
can't help but be an idealist,
Right.
recognizes the duality of the good and the evil, the peace and the war, right? And how important it is. Again, to me, peace doesn't necessarily have to look like everybody saying kumbaya. To me, peace looks more like respecting one another. Yes, human rights for all across the board, without question. That should not be a point of fighting that is ridiculous. But it also looks like understanding that there are people who are going to want to fuck that up. There are people that are not going to, the same way that there are people falling in line with the BS of certain things, there will be people not falling in line with, let's respect one another. Let's listen before we pull out guns, right? Because that's the thing. We can all want this utopian future, and there's always going to be that one guy waiting to drop a bomb on your ass.
But I guess that goes down to inner peace then. If you don't have inner peace, how are you gonna go? How is anything gonna work?
But it's so much more than just inner peace. It's all this power hungry people in the
Well, yeah,
world.
but you could apply that to everybody in the general sense too. Like that hungry and that power. I mean, if you were to put it in the aspect of, oh, let's share with everybody instead of like greed and me. I don't know. I listen. I am a realist, idealist as well. But listen, sometimes let me take me to that dreamland because
Take me to that dreamland. I agree. But I mean, how can we appreciate the dreamland if we don't see the caca?
no, obviously, but we've been living on this caca for a while. I'm just saying.
Right. But what is it that we're not learning? We are not learning from our history. And then
No,
we insist on erasing history like it never freaking happened because it was bad
that's
and
the main.
cancel it. Por
That's the
favor, we
main
know how I feel
problem,
about that. That does not change shit. It makes it happen again
right?
because
Because
nobody knew about it.
no one's learning. Yeah, like you said.
So what did you do with your canceling? What did you do with knocking down statues and whatever? No hiciste ni un coño. You wanted to educate yourself, educate the people around you. Don't act a fool.
Right. Vanessa says, I don't think you owe anyone a single explanation for the things you do and don't post, especially if they're not doing shit that's even remotely relevant. Yeah. But
Dang.
but that
Agreed.
is true. But
I
that
mean,
is
the thing is, the logical mind knows that, right?
true.
But you're
Right.
still, a part of you feels guilty.
Yeah. But I guess it's because of the people that you and I are. It's the people that we are. We're like, of course I wouldn't want to post about my fucking, Halloween, but I am. Because again, what are you doing to bring peace to yourself and be at peace and not have a meltdown every 2 seconds
Right.
because of some shit.
What was it? I posted something. I don't
If
know
we
if
don't
what was it? Posted about animals, about something, and somebody slid into my DMs as people do, and was like, "What happened? You're not posting about Cuba anymore?"
it could coexist again, it could both at the same time, everything.
At that moment, what spoke to my soul to post because it was important at that moment was that thing. Cuba never stops being. I am fucking Cuban. This has been my thing since I was knee high to a grasshopper. Okay, it's in my blood. A post ain't gonna change that. I talk about it on the daily.
Right, right.
All you have access to about me is this.
What?
I don't need to go into all that explanation with that person because
Right.
clearly they don't know me well enough if they had to slide into my DMs and say such dumb stuff.
Exactly. But that's the thing. If we don't give
But
breaks
it
to
stays with you.
ourselves, it does because it's annoying. Because people are like, "Are you okay over there? Like, are you taking care of your mental health?" At the same time, it's like we need to take breaks. So yes, we're gonna take little breaks here and there to woosah because just like we said, if not, we can bring this podcast to you guys. We can't be here because we're like in our beds crying our eyes out because of the world. So what do you want us to do?
Exactly.
Vanessa says you're fighting peace, literally world peace. Sorry, it's okay to have a mental break if it's just for one post. A little light in the caca for a minute. Yeah, I know, right?
Yay! Hashtag Caca lives on. All right, so here was my fun fact about war. So, what is a war? Is defined as an act of conflict that has claimed more than 1,000 lives. So 1,000 people have to die in order for something to be considered a war.
But
there's also massacres, there's genocides, right? So there's levels to the evil. Has the world ever been at peace? And this is, I invite you all to read this article. It's very interesting. It's in the New York Times. Now, this is from 2003. Albeit it's old, okay? It is old. This is old information. I haven't found much new information. But these numbers were interesting just because I think this was the most in-depth article that I found that went not just through numbers of like, what is war? What is this? They went into like the industry of war because war is a business. Okay? If we think people are making money from this, we are so mistaken.
definitely.
So they talked about the industry of it. They talk about human draw to it. Because us, the people that stay behind and don't go to war, we play into this as well, right? And how much more willing in the past people were to be of support than they are now. And what that has meant in how the world wars result and what happens to those soldiers that have come back. Obviously, the main war that we can think about is Vietnam and how the Vietnam vets returned destroyed and criticized by their own families. And what they needed was support, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so has the world ever been at peace? Of the past 3,400 years, humans have been entirely at peace. Okay, we're in 2003. So for 3,400 years, before 2003, including 2003, for 268 years of them, okay, we were at peace. Just 8% of recorded history.
How many years was that?
268 years.
Out of how many? 300?
Out of 3,400.
Oh, 3,000. Oh, wow.
How many people have died in war? At least 108 million people. And it's 2003.
Yeah.
You know that number grew. You know. At least 108 million people were killed in wars in the 20th century. Estimates for total number killed in wars throughout all of human history range from 150 million to 1 billion. War has several effects on population, including decreasing the birth rate. Okay. Their husbands were away at war.
Right. So makes
But he was
sense.
getting pregnant. reduced the birth rate during World War II. There was a deficit in the population during World War II by 20 million people.
That number grew.
That number grew.
We're about
Actually, funny enough, and this was from another article, since 1945, the death rate in wars, at least for the United States, has decreased.
Okay, well.
However, the mortality rate, like in births in the United States, is worse than in any other country. And we have supposedly the best medical system.
That's another topic, but we know
But we lose mothers and babies to things as simple as preeclampsia, I think is the name of the. Scary. How many wars have taken place right now? At the beginning of 2003, at that time, there were 30 wars going on around the world at the same time. Included conflicts in Afghanistan, Algeria, Burundi, China, Colombia, the Congo, India, Indonesia, Israel, Iraq, Liberia, Nigeria, Pakistan, Peru, the Philippines, Russia, Somalia, Sudan, and Uganda. Yeah. This is where, and this is why I say that this article was really great, even though it was from 2003. And I hope that they would do like a revamp, especially considering everything that's happening right now. Is there a genetic reason why we fight?
Please tell me they answered it.
There is no single war gene. Combinations of genes can predispose a person to violence. This is true, right? When we first began, back in the days, I think I don't remember the guy's name ever, but I know that the female first person's name was Lucy or something like that. So I haven't met the Metropolitan Museum of History. Sorry. You had to hunt, you had to gather, you had to fight to survive, right? And to have your space, your shelter. But it was, so there's certain defense, right? The fight or flight bit. I said, you come for my kid is going down, right? That was the necessity to fight. That was the necessity for violence.
Right.
Not, ooh, I like your walking stick, I'm going to kill you for it. Hey, I'm going to get my whole tribe to come knock you out for your walking stick. No, man. However, aggression is a product of biology and environment. In America, sources of aggressive dispositions include domestic violence, the portrayal of violence in the media, which ahora, threats from enemies, and combat training. This was another interesting point. Is war essentially male? Worldwide, 97% of today's military personnel, I just dropped everything, are male. I'm sorry, I lost my choo-choo. Are male. This is thought to be a reflection of culture and biology. There has been a shift. 2003, there has been a shift. Because now we are seeing a huge number of women in the military, in the armed forces in general, different branches of it. 15% of military personnel were female in 2003, 204,000 to be exact. Can women fight as effectively as men do? Yes. No shit. However, while fewer women are natural killers, entre comillas, and women are average smaller than men, many women who have psychological makeup and physical ability to fight, they have the same abilities. There are many men without either. Women have shown valor in combat. Dr. Mary Walker won the Medal of Honor during the Civil War. Medal of Honor, Civil War, a woman. Thank you. Now, this is where it gets real interesting. Because we only think of the soldiers, we think of the politicians, the governments, and all the things involved in making the wars happen. Why are civilians so attracted to war? It's regarded by observers as honorable and noble, which is cultural, right? As Americans, we're taught, you fight for your country and all these things. And any country teaches you that about your own nation, right? Patriotism for wherever you're from. It can be viewed as a contest between nations, a chance to compete and declare victory. Also cultural.
Right.
Does the American public support war? Between 65 and 85% of the American public will support military action when it begins. We talked about this last episode. How like right after 9/11, everybody was togetherness and love and da-da-da-da. And then after a while, it was like back to normal. The same thing with the pandemic. We're in this together, guys. It's not over. Not even a year later, we're back to being como mierda. I was like, that was really harsh. But we're back to not being so nice to each other. Right? And not being considering each other for things as simple as a mask. Like hating on each other for vaccination versus no vaccination. Like, there's a different way to achieve what you want without having to spread like caca. Because that separatism is what they want. And they will do it with vaccines. They will do it with whatever they can figure out. Are we going to fall subject to it is the question.
I mean...
So Vietnam had 64% in 1965. Okay? And this is during the time of the hippies and whatever. They were saying, no, none of that. Okay? But it had 64% support. However, as American casualties grow, support decreases. Why? They're losing their husbands, their brothers, their uncles, their obvio. You want your boys to come home. The Korean and Vietnam wars ended with the support levels near 30%. This is why when these vets came back, they had zero help. And so many of them ended up on the street, missing legs, missing arms, and severe post-traumatic stress with no help. World War II support levels fell below 77%. Never fell below 77%. For World War II, people were about it. Okay? Below 77%, despite the prolonged and damaging nature of conflict. Okay. I'm glad that stayed that way. Because the fact is, World War II, they swept in, and the Holocaust was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So good luck. Right? The Gulf War, same thing. Now, I'm not even going to get into how large the army is and all that nonsense.
Yeah, no, that's...
I'm going to get into this. War costs money. The Gulf War cost us $76 billion. Vietnam cost us $500 billion.
And
the Korean War, $336 billion. World War II, $3 trillion.
You know what you could do with all that money?
Stop people from living on the street? Feed the entire world?
Exactly. When greed is the main... Jesus.
The thing is, this money wasn't spent... Like, for example, World War II. It wasn't just spent on, like, let's go steal no sé qué cosa. It was spent on getting the people over there, making sure that they were safe. All right? So even if it wasn't, let's start this war unnecessarily. I shan't name what was unnecessary. It takes money to keep people safe, right? So this is why I wonder. I'm like, and there's been talks about how we decide to go into certain wars. And I'm like, man, you really gotta think about a lot of things. The Iraqi War, and this was in 2003. Estimates, okay. As it is outset, estimates for the cost of the Iraqi War were $50 to $140 billion, and an additional 75 to 500 billion for occupation and peacekeeping, or from $444 to $2,274 per person.
Peacekeeping, Millie.
That's more money than I'm making a month. All right. And they refer to it as an industry. And I'm not knocking it because I have a lot of friends that are in the military. I have family members that are in the military. But these numbers cause me issues. Because there's never money to start programs to teach children how to read. There's never money to help save the whales. There's never money for this. There's never money for that. It's really difficult for, you got to get a really smart governor or mayor or whatever to allocate funds to the proper programs. Every year funding gets cut.
Right, but you could freaking fund something else for war that makes no sense. Okay, está bien, whatever.
Thing. We can borrow money from people that we should probably not be borrowing money from.
That would never make sense.
But not to feed the people.
That would never make sense.
It's like, I know there's a lot more behind it, but it's still after.
No, obviously, everyone, we understand that there's more to that than just these numbers that Vanessa's reading. But at the same time, it's like, come on. Vanessa says there's no money in that kind of help. Greed. No, of course not. Ever, always.
2001, U.S. Army manufacturers exported $9.7 billion in weapons worldwide.
Yeah, if these numbers
are not. And here's the thing. It makes it scary to stop. Right? It makes the thought of peace scary versus hopeful. Because what happens if people start thinking, okay, like, we're going to go for the peace? There's always going to be that one guy who's going to be like, nah, everybody's calm now. Let's go fuck their shit up. Right? Trojan horse. So the moment that people feel that they don't have to have the ammunition or whatever to defend themselves is the moment that they're left up for attack. And then there's all these fears that keeps us in this cycle of not being able to stop this nonsense, and makes it an idealist thought versus a reality.
Right.
And we're all doing it to each other.
That's the worst part.
Because that's all that told me, is that we send weapons around the world, right? To the same people that are going to turn around and use those weapons on us, that have turned around and used those weapons on us.
I don't get it. Just never.
And onward and onward. Not to mention, we've talked about this in the tech episode. The dark web.
Oh yeah.
And the black market, where you can buy all sorts of crazy things. It's very scary. How dangerous is war to civilians? 43 million soldiers died in wars. During the same time period, 62 million civilians were killed. Okay? This one made me cry. That's why sometimes it's really frustrating to be like, why the war? But it's like, who's going to help those civilians getting killed?
Exactly.
But then it sucks because then we're over there getting killed too. But
it's a domino.
It's horrendous. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So for the 43 million soldiers that may die, and they're talking from 1900 to 1990, 43 million soldiers died. In that same time period, 62 million civilians died, either by crossfires or either before the soldiers even got there by their own governments.
Right.
by their own armies. And when we say civilians, we think the adults. Children die in this. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, children were being slaughtered. More than 34 million civilians died in World War II. These were for a multitude of reasons. And we're not even talking about the number of the people sent to the concentration camps.
No.
Right? If you're just talking about the people in the cities were destroyed. They were crumbled. There was rubble all over Europe during World War II. 1 million died in North Korea. Hundreds of thousands were killed in South Korea. And between 200,000 to 400,000 in Vietnam. And this was not a war, but this one, yeah, it was. But still, Hiroshima, Pearl Harbor, like the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And some wars were fighting for freedom, were fighting for, and other wars were just pretty much, and excuse the term, a cockfight.
Yeah.
In the wars of the 1990s, civilian deaths constituted about 75 to 90% of all the war's deaths.
And what the hell did we achieve with all of this? I need to know the achievements. I need to know, because at the end, I just feel like nothing was accomplished.
And it's shot, bombed, raped, starved, and driven from their homes, because that's another thing, right? So that on top of the actual deaths and on top of the devastation, you also have the displacement of people, right? The refugees. And what happens? Now who's going to take care of the refugees? And so what have we seen? We've seen all these, oh my God, my heart goes out to the Bosnian refugees. They had such a, look, they come up in the article. World War II, 40 million non-Germans in Europe and 13 million Germans were expelled from countries in Eastern Europe. Okay, that's how many people were displaced. 2.5 million of the 4.4 million people in Bosnia and Herzegovina were driven from their homes during the region's war in the early 1990s. Rwanda, 2 million people had to flee their country. Afghanistan, okay. In 2001, 200,000 people were driven from Afghanistan to Pakistan. And in 2003, 45,000 Liberians were displaced from their homes. That's a lot. And like, of course, we said that peace is not like just war and stuff, but that's a lot of.
But like we said,
that's a lot of war. That's a lot of death.
And nothing was accomplished with it. Nothing was achieved with all these. The cost of death. Everybody died.
Well, I mean, to some point, some places did get their freedom.
Well, okay.
In some of those cases. But how many wars have we had since that, you know?
But like you said,
I mean, it feels really disheartening to see the Afghani people in the situation they're in now.
Yeah.
The whole idea was to get rid of the Taliban so it wouldn't be a problem. That's who's running the show. So what are we doing?
But like you said, without war, we want no peace, and vice versa, I guess. Like, I don't know.
I know, but these extremes, these millions.
Oh, yeah.
Qué fuerte.
Just listening to the numbers, I'm already like.
And this was in 2003.
Can you imagine now? Oh.
I
We
don't
don't.
wanna. I don't wanna because it would blow my mind. Um, I digress. We go to peace when it comes to peace of mind. Taking the time for yourself. Getting therapy. Y'all got therapy. It's so good for us.
I mean, hey, even talking to somebody, just talk to anybody about it, whatever's in your mind.
Anything.
Anyone, just to let it all out. Just talk to somebody. I don't care if I
Even if it
repeat.
makes you feel better to read a book that like self-help books or whatever people criticize, they really do help. They help me a lot.
I never realized like I'm a modest, so if that's how you pronounce it. So I believe in all religions. Each religion to me has one thing, and I take it, and I embrace it, and But I didn't realize how much of a Buddhist I really am, because I was looking through my books for, Chubi's book corner, and I realized I have a lot of like internal dialogue type books of your mental, like actually to calm the mind down, because how angry was I? Jesus, apparently very angry. But sometimes it takes you to be good inside in order to do good in the outside, because if you're a turmoil and you're, like you said earlier about work, the performance won't be, to its highest if you are having a terrible mental day. So yes, taking time for yourself and actually realizing, okay, what can I do today? You know?
Yeah.
Oh, we got
Before I say what
comments.
I say, let's see what Vanessa says. War, in my opinion, is selfish and used to exert power because people cannot communicate. Oh, look at that word just by itself. How beautiful. Communicate. I agree, Vanessa. I agree. Um,
Exactly. Well, I don't,
yeah.
I don't, no, no, I don't understand the point of war. That's it. That's literally, I just don't.
In terms of like mental health and mental peace, it adds so much to the collective piece,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you keep it just within the first nucleus, the home, right? When people in that home are actively doing their best to be their best, right? To improve upon things that and break patterns that have not served them, right?
Exactly.
And then make them more considerate of one another and that help them feel lighter, right? When you break patterns, you feel lighter. If you are a recovering people pleaser, right? The tendency was to to make sure everything was kosher, right? But then you're being dishonest to yourself and your needs aren't being met. So now you're in a funk, you're depressed or you're grouchy, right? There are no boundaries. So people are just in each other's space. So what does that now promote? That reactivity that you were talking about. Because you feel you have to protect and defend yourself constantly. So because for a long time you could not express an opinion,
Right.
right? It felt unsafe to do so. So even when it fixes in the nucleus in the home, you see those people in that home become stronger. Their communication skills become better, right? The atmosphere feels lighter. The same thing in a business,
Right.
right? They used to say a happy employee is a good running business, right? There's people, there's companies like Google or whatever that have massages for their employees. Because when you're stressed out and sitting in a computer all day, you're not going to do your best.
Exactly. You're not.
There's so many companies now, like SAP and all these big tech companies. They understand that no, you're not doing physical labor, but this using your cabeza, that's exhausting. So they provide their employees mental rest days
Right.
and things like that. That's massively important.
Yeah, and I
I
wish
think the
our
more you work
company.
on yourself,
Yeah, I wish our
Tyson,
companies did that too. No matter what company it is.
yeah.
I
And
know it's.
also now more companies are including diversity training, right? Diversity and inclusivity. And I think that's massively important because what also happens in our home, we've talked about this in previous episodes. All these internalized, and be it, you know, um, male, female, or non binary, internalized misogyny is very real. right? Um, Comments that we think are not offensive or hurtful to a particular community, right? Either
Right.
the Hispanic community, the Black community, the queer community. They make a comment thinking is it, you know what I'm saying? And it's actually very hurtful or offensive or damaging to a coworker. So now they're including all of those things.
Right.
But wars have been started for less. You know what I'm saying? That is where they stem from: discrimination,
Yeah.
prejudice.
It's like you said. It's just it's a circle. It's history. We're not learning from our past.
Yeah. So I hope that all this diversity training and all this leaning towards making it like getting mental help therapy, like mental health help. I speak English, I promise, guys. As becoming less taboo. I hope that's for something. Because because it's more than just tolerating one another. Tolerating is bullshit. Okay? Because tolerating in the blink of an eye can turn into ya me cansaste.
And
Bang.
right
You know what
there.
I'm saying? Understanding, accepting. And the thing is, you don't have to accept somebody else's reality as your own,
Right.
because you got to deal with it because it's their reality. And if it's not affecting you, why the hell do you care? You're going to go start a war about it, really?
That applies to everything.
Yeah.
Vanessa says selfish because the people who won the war won't fight, but they'll send the soldiers in to do it for them and take all the credit. Yeah, basically. Oh, we got more coming. Brian. Brian says
We talk.
Brian says in history, war has often been about power, land, and religion over and over again. Yeah, it's nothing new, right?
Power, land, religion, and discrimination, right? But I guess that would fall totally under power.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. We should get onto the books because we got some like quote quotes
Ah,
and put Chewy's book.
Shibby's Book Corner.
Yeah, we have the look at the time. Okay, so
Yes.
I have 5 books for you guys today, and the first one is Peace When the Monkey Becomes a Monk.
He's so
Listen,
cute.
the books I have today, I did not realize how much of a Buddhist, but I'm gonna read little excerpts from it just so you guys could get an idea of what this book is about. So I will leave it right there. You see how cute? Yeah. What is peace? It is a state of calm and of quiet. It is being in harmony and living in stress-free life. It is serenity and tranquility. It is also in the absence of worry, fear, anger, hate, and revenge. It is a state of nonviolence, just as it is a state of love and brotherhood. Peace is the foundation of happiness. It is the very base on which the castle of our joy, our bliss, and happiness is built. Where there is no peace, there can be no joy. Therefore, while the whole world seeks to be happy, what we seek in essence, is peace. That's a little excerpt from the book. You see why I read it? Again, peace when the monkey becomes a monk. And I love this book. I love, 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 love this book. This one, The Art of Peace. I can't see. Oh, here we go. The art of peace is medicine for a sick world. There is evil and disorder in the world because people have forgotten that all the things emanate from one source. Return to that source and leave behind a self-centered thoughts, petty desires, and anger. Those who are possessed by nothing possess everything. Mori Ueshi. It shouldn't even bother trying to say their name, but look at
Basically, we are all connected. Dejen de comer mierda.
ding 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 ding, and we're done. Yes. Okay. The next one is I love this
That is
book.
Vanessa's Cuban translation.
Right? Basically, Osho, The Search for Peace. I know. I'm sorry.
Oh,
It just I love. I'm getting his tattoo.
no, I love Osho.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised I haven't used more Cody quotes.
Um, an excerpt from the book is, a man of peace is not a pacifist. A man of peace is simply a pool of silence. He pulsates a new kind of energy into the world. He sings a new song. He lives in a total new way. His very way of life is that of grace, that of prayer, that of compassion. Whomever he touches, he creates more love energy. That's it.
You know
That's
what it is that whole thing just made me realize?
Mm.
People have difficulty taking accountability, having to accept that they did wrong, right?
Oh,
Or that
definitely.
they can do something differently that can also benefit someone else, not just them. And so they'll fight about it so they won't have to do it.
Exactly. And my last one, because Lord knows, becoming your own therapist. Yeah.
Dilemma.
However, whether you are religious or a materialist, a believer or an atheist, it is crucial that you know how your own mind works. If you don't, you'll go around thinking you're healthy, when in reality, the deep root of afflicted emotions, the true cause of all psychological disease, is there, growing within you. Because of that, all it takes is some tiny external thing changing, something insignificant going wrong, and within a few seconds, you're completely upset. To me, that shows you're
A
mentally ill.
trigger.
Huh?
A trigger.
Yeah. To me, that you shows you're mentally ill. Why? Because you are obsessed with the sense world, blinded by attachment and under the control of a fundamental cause of our problems, ignorance of the truth nature of your own mind.
Amen. I'm gonna read that book.
Yeah.
What have we? Can I just say that we've done an episode about like 5 things that he talked about with attachment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is it for
I
Chubi's
mean,
Corner.
if different people have said it, it must be a thing.
And that's the thing, but like I was telling you earlier in the beginning of the show, if I didn't take my time over the years to internalize why I was so angry and stop taking it out on the world, because I was angry with everybody and telling everybody to screw themselves and always being angry and taking it out, displacing my anger is basically the same thing with war. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Everybody's just like, but I did some internal work and hey, here we are. Oh, well, quote
I'm
quotes.
gonna read my quotes. Peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is rather than as you think it should be. Wayne Dyer. May he rest in peace. Um, Wayne Dyer also has awesome books. If you want to, why can I hide it, Julie?
Hide what?
The quote.
It
I
already
can't
is
take it down.
gone.
There it is. Thank you. Okay. So it's where you changed in that way, I changed in that way. I had to learn that not everything needed to be as I expected it to be, or as I was taught that it had to be. There was
Right.
room for other things, right? We talked about 2 things can
Right.
exist in space, 3 things can exist in the same space. I had to learn that, assimilate that, and I'm so much happier for it. War is the result of fear. Peace is the result of love. Not very different from what you read from that one book, right? And war is the result of fear. You're afraid somebody's going to attack your ass, right? You're afraid of not being enough, of being seen by the rest of the world as weak. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch and do nothing.
Bystanders.
And this is why I say that I'm not entirely a pacifist. Because yes, I rather the talking, I rather the peace, but I'm also not going to sit there twiddling my thumbs.
No, right. Yeah, I'm not a
Right?
bystander.
So doing something doesn't have to look like holding up a gun and going to battle.
Right. It's simply if
Until the
defending
moment.
some.
Yeah.
Simply defending someone. I've been that person. I always see somebody getting bullied. I'm like, hey,
Yeah. Peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of all of those things and still be calm in your heart.
One of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. It doesn't have to look like kumbaya. It just has to look like respect, love,
Yes.
understanding, right? Eh, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. Mother Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
We are not an island. We say it all the time. We do belong to each other in that sense. We're here to take care of one another in whatever way we can. Mother Teresa, highest recorded energetic level of love. Of love.
Oh yeah. I remember that episode.
I'm saying if she said it, I believe it. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, I'd rather have peace on earth than pieces of earth. Mora, age 9.
I've seen that
A
quote.
9-year-old child.
I've seen that quote for years now. I wonder how old she is. We need to talk.
Yeah. The power of love. Yes. So I'm just saying, if a 9-year-old child can understand the importance, you know what I'm saying? That we are destroying the world around us, we're destroying each other. Y'all, that's that's who grows up to be us, to deal with these wars.
And that's why to the statement of that what person said, why am I fighting now if it's not gonna, help or do anything? It's because if we start today, at least our nieces, our kids will have a better future than we're having a present today, a better one.
It took that first person to say enough, right? About living under a king or queen, right? It took that first person, that first slave to run away. It has taken so many first people to get bigger things going. And sometimes it feels like not much is accomplished, like we're still stuck in certain things. But if we really look at so much in the world with a fine tooth comb and a magnifying glass, there has been change. Cling on to that and keep that going, right? I think there's a tendency sometimes to think of the problem and not the solution. And that's what keeps us stuck. And that's why the theys of the world can count on dragging us down and creating that separation between us. And they will call it anything, right? These people are bad or different because of whatever. Right now it's vaccines. Before it was because they're gay, right? There will always be a reason for there to be a line drawn between all of us. It is our job to say that we are not sheep, that we have minds, that we have hearts, that we have souls, and that we are connected and that we see that in one another. And that just because they want to swing their peepees around doesn't mean that we have to fall prey to it. My own lovey-dovey hippie version.
My final thoughts on this is just work on yourself too. You matter. Like your mental health, your like we say, it starts at home. Your peace matters because if you leave angry, if you're always frustrated, angry, and you go out into the world, you're gonna take it out on someone else. And is that fair for anybody? You
No.
know, and always seeking help too. How I mean, hopefully it works for someone. I don't know. Some people don't like it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just
I don't.
understand.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just understanding more about yourself as well and how you function and what's makes you. You know.
Another thing that I would add to that, and I love what you said, Truby, so much, um, is to keep a lookout for your mirrors. We go through these growing pains, right? what is it, recovering people please and all the things. We stop being, what was it that you said, to be less violent, like hands on. So we go through all these changes, and in that interim, sometimes we take out our nastiness on the wrong people, the
Yeah.
ones we love the most, our parents, our family members, our friends, right? And learning to set boundaries, we get rajatabla and really nasty, not realizing that we can exert those things, or apply those things without having to go the opposite direction. But now we're like defending our, like, in a fight for our own lives, right? Our own war. So there's gonna be those moments, but the moment that you start to find the balance in it, take a moment to reflect. It's never too late to apologize for shit. And that can make all the difference, not just in yourself, but in that other person. It's a way of paying it forward. I have gone back after years of seeing in the mirror, meaning someone else showing me what it feels like to be jealous or to be rude or whatever, and been like, I gotta call fulanita or fulanito, be like, hey, I'm really sorry if I ever did this to you. I just realized how crappy that feels.
I did
It
a couple of
changes
that.
you because now you're not gonna do that no more. That's one. But it also changes that other person because now they see this growth, this evolution in you. There's the potential for there to be like a new dynamic, a new relationship that's stronger because of that one apology, because of that one change. So imagine that grander scale, war scale.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you
If we
imagine?
actually learn from past wars, what a concept.
I wish it was that easy.
So do I.
But yes. Um, yeah. I don't have anything else to say
That's
about
it on
that.
my end because right now you're a robot.
Well, like we always say, stay fearless, everyone.
Stay fearless, fam.